You're listening to Podcast PXN, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. Let's do this. What's up, guys? Welcome to Podcast PXN, episode 88. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Prindle, aka Dan is DTM on Twitter, and I am joined over Discord by absolutely no one. I'm running solo this week, but next week we should have a full cast, and I believe ISO Christian from Twitter, Christian, is going to join us on a permanent basis starting next week, which is very exciting. It always seems like we're trying to struggle to get 3 people, so it'll be good to have yet another person. Some weeks we'll have 4 people. That'll be great. So, yeah, cool. Stick around for that, guys, coming up next week. And we will have our E3 predictions on next week's episode, so that'll be something to watch as well. Thank you to everyone joining us live and participating in the chat. Just as a reminder, we are live each and every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube. Just search Podcast PXN and you will find us on there, as well as twitch.tv/Podcast PXN as well. The topic of the show this week is a bunch of news leading up to E3. There's just an insane amount of news coming over the last couple of days, and we still have an insane amount of news coming in the next couple of days as well that we're going to probably have to fit in next week as well. So very exciting stuff. But first, the show always starts with the PXN News of the Week, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So this week, I am combining the PXN News of the Week and the topic of the show. It is just going to be one thing. It is going to be a ton of news kind of leading up to E3. There's just so much coming out right now, so just kind of try to talk about all of it in our News of the Week and topic of the show conglomeration here this week. So with that being said, the first story of the week is Timesplitters is officially returning and is being developed by a reformed Free Radical design headed by Timesplitters veterans. This is super exciting for me. I know a lot of people thought I was probably crazy when I went back and bought Homefront: The Revolution when I found out that you could play Timesplitters 2 remaster, or I guess not remaster, but port within that game by using these cheat codes or whatever, which I still have yet to do because you actually have to play Homefront: The Revolution to get to that. So I'm very excited about this news. Obviously, it's super good news that they're going to have Timesplitters veterans from the original Free Radical joining this studio to essentially rebuild that studio from the ground up. Very excited to see what they do with this. I really want to see what a modern day take on Timesplitters is, because it's such a zany and like over the top art style, and I love it so much. Like crazy stuff like monkeys, and it's just so good. It's amazing. I love that franchise and very excited to see it come back. And Deep Silver is going to be the one publishing it. They're the ones who are actually forming the new studio because they own the IP for Timesplitters, obviously. There's been a Timesplitters fan project that's been in the works for a long time as well that I know a lot of people have like really been clamoring for that, but I'm not sure how far along that is because they haven't really given us many updates on it, and it's been in development by fans for like, gosh, at this point, like close to like 6 or 7 years, maybe more. So yes, this is very exciting that we're officially getting Timesplitters back because it was well needed. Moving on to the next news story, Overwatch 2 will shrink the team size in PvP from 6v6 to 5v5. Very, very interesting news here because a lot of people in the competitive community were pointing this out like, hey, how is this going to affect our competitive teams that we've formed with Overwatch? Because like we have a 6-man team, we're essentially telling, that 6th person when Overwatch 2 comes out, they're not going to be on our team anymore, like the competitive community. So that is kind of interesting that they're changing the size of player count for multiplayer matches. But I guess it really depends on how the maps are laid out in Overwatch 2. And correct me if I'm wrong, anyone in the chat, but I think that the Overwatch 2 is still going to have all of the content that the original Overwatch has, and it's just going to add more content to it. So all the original multiplayer maps from Overwatch 1, I believe, are still going to be in Overwatch 2. So it's not like those maps weren't created with 6v6 in mind, because the original Overwatch was 6v6. So definitely interesting there. It is an interesting problem that the competitive community will have to figure out. Maybe those each one person from all these squads that get dropped, they form their own team and like stick it to the people who dropped them or something. I don't know. But it is very interesting that they're changing that, because you typically don't see that from a franchise. Like basically say, oh, we don't want to do that player count anymore, we want to do this one. Actually, many times you see like developers like Halo, for instance, you'll see like just a variety of player bases. So like in Halo, for instance, you have 8v8 big team battle, you have 4v4, you have 2v2. There's all kinds of different. So it's interesting that they're kind of just saying, no, we just want 5v5 for Overwatch 2. Christian says, fans seem to not be happy that there isn't major changes with the full price sequel. Yeah, absolutely, Christian. That's definitely one of the things that I'm kind of like a little leery about Overwatch 2, because yeah, like you said, when they first revealed it, they essentially said like, this is just like extra content essentially for Overwatch. It wasn't really like a full-fledged sequel. And I don't know if the extra time that they've taken on it now is going to evolve that. I hope so, but I guess we'll kind of just have to wait and see what they give us at the end of the day, because yeah, I think you're right, Christian. A lot of people were a little upset about that, hoping for more from Overwatch 2. Moving on from that story, Among Us is getting a new color, among other colors as well, in their next big update, and it is rose color. So I just thought that was an interesting story. I thought I'd throw that in there. Little space person in a pink suit, so kind of cool. To give more customization for that game. I hope they continue to add more customization in that game, because they have so much potential there, and I want to see more maps and stuff like that come out from Among Us as well. So very excited to see more of that. Bungie has officially announced a Destiny 2 crossplay beta is coming next week for PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, and Stadia. I know if Roro was here, he'd be super excited about this, because he loves Destiny 2, plays it a ton. But this is kind of on the heels of Bungie sort of accidentally creating crossplay last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever day that was. They accidentally enabled it and people started messing with it. And it actually, from what I've heard, it actually worked pretty well until they shut it off, and then you could still see your friends online, but you couldn't join them on another platform. So very excited to see Destiny 2 kind of broaden its horizons and allow everyone in that wants to be in, no matter what platform you're on. You can play with your friends now, which or at least once this beta starts, which is absolutely great. So. Moving on from there, Season 7 of Halo the Master Chief Collection. Yes, I know. What a surprise. I'm talking about Halo the Master Chief Collection. Is getting a bunch of new elite armor and also some cool energy swords. So Season 7 is essentially going to focus on the armor for elites in Halo 3 specifically. And it has a lot of cool armor sets for sure. Like, if the one thing that 343 has knocked out of the park so far with Master Chief Collection is adding new armor that actually fits in with the original game's art style. And I feel like these new elite armors really back that up as well. And many of them look super, super cool. Very excited to check those all out. And the new energy swords look sick as well. Like, for so long, I feel like people were wanting like different colored energy swords, and we kind of got a little tease of that or taste of it in Halo 5 with some of the variants that we got, because you had like, Prophet's Bane, which is the Arbiter sword, which kind of had a different look to it, but it was still a sword. And very excited to kind of see how that evolves over time, and 343 continues to kill it with nobody really caring, apparently, that Master Chief Collection is still putting out some awesome content. So that's very cool as well. Moving on from that story, Crytek appears to be teasing an imminent announcement of Crysis 2 Remastered. Yes, please. Crysis 2 is probably... I don't know. Crysis 2 was probably my favorite. A lot of people like the original Crysis, but I feel like Crysis 1 doesn't hold up as well, especially to today's standards. Crysis 2, I really liked back in the day, and even I liked 3 as well, even though I think I liked 2 a little bit more. It's been so long since I played it. Heck, I think it came out in 2010, 2011, something like that. And they just released the Crysis Remastered, of course, last year, which is very interesting, that now we're already getting a Crysis 2 remaster. But I would totally be down for it, and very much want to see what this looks like. I would love to see them revisit Crysis in a sequel, and maybe them going back and doing a remaster of 1 and now a remaster of 2 will maybe put them on that train to do another a Crysis game, a sequel, a proper sequel. And it's always had such a great premise to me, like a super future cyborg. Like, I don't know, I just love it. The mech stuff in it, and his suit is so cool and has so many cool abilities. And yeah, I just I would love to return to the world of Crysis for sure. Obviously, I think Crytek is in a better position now than what they were in right after Crysis 3 came out. I think they were having some issues within their studio, but they kind of turned that around, I guess, after their kind of issues that they had with Rise, Son of Rome as well, which was an Xbox One launch title. But anyways, moving on from there, Ubisoft has confirmed that Watch Dogs Legion will be getting a 60 frames per second performance mode on PS5 and Xbox Series X on June 1st, along with the ability to play with friends on the same console family. So essentially cross-play, except only within the same ecosystem, which kind of unfortunate that it's not full-blown cross-play, but understandable, I guess, that they couldn't quite get that ready in time. Maybe that's something they have on their forecast for the future. But obviously, with a game like Watch Dogs Legion, I feel like they need crossplay because the player base is not going to be very big on any one platform. Because let's be frank, no one's playing Watch Dogs Legion necessarily for the multiplayer. Even though I loved the multiplayer in Watch Dogs 2. As far as like the hacking mini game, I love that so much. It's so much fun. You're essentially trying to hack another human player and trying to hide within plain sight without them finding you. It's very similar to like the Assassin's Creed multiplayer from back in the day that they kind of went away from, which I hated that they went away from it because it was so much fun. It was such a cool idea as well. But yeah, Watch Dogs Legion kind of getting some more updates, which is always good news. This next one is going to be something that I have very little information on. It's unfortunate that I don't have help on this one, but I'll do my best here. There is a rumor that Square Enix is working on a new action-focused Final Fantasy title with Team Ninja called Final Fantasy Origin. This title is exclusive to PS5 and is coming to PC later. There is an alpha demo reportedly coming this summer. This is interesting. I know there's a lot of Final Fantasy fans out there. Personally, I'm not a big Final Fantasy fan, so like me seeing another game with Final Fantasy in it, I'm just like, okay, another Final Fantasy game. I don't know if we needed another Final Fantasy, but we're getting another Final Fantasy, so it's interesting. And Team Ninja is very interesting because they made the Ninja Gaiden games, so they have a really good history with that hack and slash type of gameplay. So it does sound interesting. However, I'm not a big Dark Souls fan, and it sounds like this may be like mixing up like Bloodborne and a combination type of like action role playing games, so to speak. But yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they do with this. We've got Kurek in the Twitch chat saying, what? No Final Fantasy Tactics 2? No, I guess not. But again, I'm not the person for Final Fantasy. I feel bad that I have no experience with Final Fantasy whatsoever. So it sucks that I don't have my co-host this week to help me out with this one because I literally know nothing about Final Fantasy. They're leaving money on the table. Absolutely. I'm not going to disagree with you there because I know there's a lot of fans of Tactics for sure. And it is interesting, like, why have Team Ninja make another game and just call it Final Fantasy? I don't really understand that. Like, why wouldn't this just be like an original IP if it's not like in the traditional Final Fantasy sense? But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Our next story, PlayStation is debuting 14 minutes of New Horizon Forbidden West gameplay in a special state of play tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific. So this is one of those news stories that I was kind of alluding to, that we are getting a ton of news tomorrow, and this is one of them. I'm very excited for this game. I love Aloy as a character, and the world of Horizon was such a beautiful freaking world, and Forbidden West seems to take that to a whole other level with the beaches and the water and the jungle environment. It just looks so freaking beautiful. I'm very excited to see the 14 minutes of gameplay, and who knows, maybe they drop a release date tomorrow to try to get ahead of all of the E3 hype that's coming here in the next couple of weeks. And I do anticipate that Forbidden West is going to launch this fall and be the big PlayStation 5 exclusive coming this fall. Obviously, we have just in a few short weeks, we have Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which is going to be so good. It looks literally amazing. It's Pixar come to life, which is awesome. And this game is going to be just as beautiful in its own right. And very, very excited to see this 14 minutes of gameplay coming tomorrow. Of course, it'll be right when I get off work, so I'm going to have to run home and like pull this up right away to check out this new gameplay. Moving on from there, another thing we are getting tomorrow, Dying Light 2 has teased a May 27th reveal. The interesting thing here is that last time they teased something on Twitter, they teased, oh, are you ready for more information? And then when they actually revealed it, it was just like essentially, well, we're still working on the game and we're excited to show you it. Like, they didn't actually end up showing it, but it does seem like this is the actual event that we will finally see maybe some gameplay on Dying Light 2. It's been a very long time since we've seen anything on this game. I believe since E3 2019 was the last time we saw gameplay from Dying Light 2. I am very excited for this game because the first game was a really, really solid start in the series, and it had that like tense atmosphere and a little bit of Mirror's Edge in terms of the climbing and mechanics such as that. And you also get the zombies and you get so much action, and I love it so much, and very excited to see this gameplay tomorrow. And I'm assuming it's going to be gameplay, and it's going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. So it'll be before the PlayStation event tomorrow. So very, 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 very excited and interested to see what we get from Dying Light 2. Next up, I actually put this originally as a rumor, but we will actually go ahead and confirm this, that Xbox and Bethesda's game showcase is set for June 13th at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Very, 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 very excited for this. Halo Infinite, I have been waiting for so long. This game has literally been in development for 6 years. And I feel like this is the culmination of what 343 has been working towards ever since the beginning of them taking over the Halo franchise. And I am so excited to see more from Halo Infinite. They put a little freaking teaser image, which I wish I had copied this to show you guys on the screen here, but I didn't copy it. The teaser image of the E3 showcase shows all of the armor customization and weapon customization for multiplayer. Oh my gosh, yes, please. It looks so good. So good. If you haven't looked it up yet, go look up on Twitter the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase little image that they released, exclusive art. It looks so good. I'm so excited. All the armor customization, all the weapon customization. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. So yes, I can't wait to see that, as well as all the Xbox and Bethesda news that we're bound to get out of this. I did my Xbox predictions 2 weeks ago, I think, on my personal channel. Very excited about them, and hope we see maybe Starfield as well, even though it's probably not coming out this year, as I kind of already thought. But very excited to see that from Todd Howard's team as well. ISO Christian, thank you for participating, Christian. I appreciate it. It says, I hope that we will see more Hellblade. I agree, man. I really want to see more Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga, because it looks good. It looks so good. The first game was so unique. Like, the sound design in that game is just so amazing. It's incredible. I love it. It's so immersive. You're literally, especially like if you have great headphones or like surround sound, like I have surround sound, it's so crazy to walk through the environments because you'll hear like something back here and you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck's going on? And it just freaks you out, and it's so good. It's so good in that regard. But yeah, I would love to see some more Senua's Saga. And honestly, it should be perfectly timed to show up this year, because we haven't seen anything from it since Game Awards 2019, which would have been fall 2019. That was the last time we saw Senua's Saga officially announced. So I feel like it would be time for us to see more from it. So be interesting to see there. Our next news story, Valve is apparently making a Switch-like portable gaming PC. This is interesting. I guess my question here is this going to be modular enough for Valve to say, okay, any game on Steam can be played with this Switch-like portable device? The question is, can that happen? If that can't happen, then I'm not sure that this is going to be very successful. However, if they are able to make something where it can play literally any Switch game on the store, I believe that's a huge advantage for Valve, because they can essentially say, all right, we don't have Nintendo's exclusives, but we have literally every other game that you want to play on Steam. We have all the major first party Microsoft games, because they all release on Steam now and PC. You have all the major third-party games coming to PC, and that's something Nintendo can't even say, because not all publishers are 100% on board with the Switch. And that's not to say that the Switch hasn't done well, because it has, but we don't always get the full-fledged games from those publishers. Sometimes we get cash-ins like FIFA 21 or whatever that is literally a copy and paste from FIFA 20. So it will be interesting to see how successful that ends up being, but it does sound very intriguing, especially if Valve makes a really nice device and maybe sells it at a loss to make up for it in terms of software sales. So, Kirek says in the chat, I'm sold. Yeah, I'm definitely interested for sure. I want to see what it looks like, but I'm definitely interested to see how much that baby can sell, because that's interesting. Oh, the dog, of course, plays with his toy, right? We're in the middle of the show here. Moving on, guys. Biomutant has gotten some reviews. I think, so there's some interesting things out there right now about Biomutant. And I think that one of the best things that I saw out there right now, in terms of best, I mean like wow, that really opens my eyes. Like, Biomutant is being, I guess, lauded, I guess. I don't know if lauded's the right word, but it's being downplayed because it has had issues with hitting that high bar of AAA. And essentially, there was some people saying on Twitter, like, hey, this is why Days Gone is no longer a franchise and isn't getting a sequel, because like people are complaining about Biomutant not being a top end AAA experience. Like, it's not completely polished and all of this stuff, and it didn't fulfill their expectations and all of this stuff. But Biomutant is being made by literally 20 people. And like, that's the problem that this industry ends up going to. Like, you're comparing a game that is made by 20 people to a game like, just for instance, Halo Infinite is being made by like 400 or 500 people. Like, that's such a big difference in terms of the amount of people working on it that it's not really fair to compare the two, but we do in this day and age. And I guess the other problem with that is the price of the game. Yes, the price is the same, $60 on for Biomutant, $60 for Halo Infinite or any other big AAA game, but it does ask and spark an interesting conversation of, are these two things able to be compared directly to one another? Because it's not really always that simple. They are very different development budgets, and there's a lot of other constraints. And I think Biomutant kind of goes out and does what they were trying to do, I guess, the best they could do it. Obviously, they are still working through, as many things as they can with such a small staff that they're not going to have the most polished game. They're not going to have the best game, but that's not what they're going for. They're just trying to make something that they enjoy and other people enjoy. So that, at the end of the day, I think that is kind of important to reflect on with games like Biomutant. So moving on to kind of continue off of earlier stories, there is more news coming tomorrow, and this one is happening at 9 a.m. Pacific, which would be 12 noon Eastern, happening tomorrow. And it is a Sonic Central, which is apparently a first look at some of the Sonic projects, partnerships, and events for their Sonic 30th anniversary celebration. So this is very exciting. Actually, I've already saw, I believe, Roger Craig Smith on Twitter. He was talking about this a little bit, saying how excited he was to come back as the voice of Sonic in the video games, which is super cool. I know he's a big fan of the games, and I know he absolutely loves the character, so it's super cool to see him step back into that role and kind of dive back into Sonic. And I'm interested to see what else they have to show tomorrow. Obviously, the second Sonic movie is going to be coming out probably, I think, next year, right? Something like that. So yeah, it's very, very exciting to kind of see what else we get from Sonic. I love the first Sonic movie, by the way, so I'm super stoked for the second one. And maybe Sega's gonna kind of pull Sonic back out into the spotlight and try to make it, a big brand again. I know Sonic in recent years has kind of fallen to the wayside, so to speak, for other things, but yeah, it's never too late. We could always get some more Sonic in our lives. I believe Kurok was talking about the Steam handheld and said, if I can play my library, why not? Absolutely. That's a fair point. If you have those hundreds or however many games on Steam already and it works on this new handheld, that would absolutely be a very cool thing to have. So very, very interested in that. Moving on, we have Dead by Daylight's Resident Evil chapter that has been officially unveiled. We had already gotten a tease of this at the last Resident Evil event that Capcom had, but now we have the full details on what this chapter is going to be. It will be released in June, and it will include Leon, Jill, and Nemesis, which, woo! That's exciting. I'm very, very excited to see Nemesis in Dead by Daylight, especially because, Nemesis is so scary already. He's such a big beefy character, and just seeing him sulk around the Dead by Daylight map would just be terrifying, I'm sure, in its own right. And Leon and Jill, of course, are two of the most iconic characters in Resident Evil, so it's very cool to see them join the roster of Dead by Daylight. I need to go back and play this game. It's been a long time since I played this, and I know they've added a ton of content. They added, I think they added Saw characters. I think they've added... Have they added Friday the 13th characters, I think, maybe, or Michael Myers, one or the other. But yeah, very, very interested in that. Of course, fan favorite characters in Resident Evil. Moving on, we have more news coming this week. Far Cry 6 is getting its gameplay reveal on May 28th, which is this Friday. So we have all that news coming tomorrow that I've already talked about. And Far Cry 6 is getting its gameplay reveal Friday. Very excited to see this finally get revealed. I played Far Cry 5. I got I don't know, 6 or 7 hours into it, and I was like, man, this doesn't have the same feel as Far Cry 3 and 4 had. Obviously, it was a very different setting, I guess. It wasn't a very different game. It was still a very similar game, but I guess the atmosphere just didn't feel like Far Cry. It didn't feel like you're on, in the survival situation on the stranded island. So I'm very excited to go back to the roots of Far Cry with Far Cry 6, and really interested to see this gameplay reveal. I think Giancarlo Esposito, I think that's his name. He's an amazing actor, and I'm very excited to see him as the villain in Far Cry 6. Obviously, Voss in Far Cry 3 was freaking awesome, and even the bad guy in Far Cry 4, which was voiced by Troy Baker, his name's escaping me right now, but even he was a really interesting villain. So I'm very interested to see Giancarlo kind of bring his own expertise of villainry to Far Cry 6. So very cool, very cool. Christian says, still can't believe what a week it is. So many events. Absolutely, man. It is getting insane. How many events and how much news we are getting. It's absolutely unreal. We have a few more news stories here, and then I'll go over my game I'm playing. First teaser of screenshot of Creative Assembly's multiplayer first-person shooter title, which has a bunch of Sega stuff in it for some reason. So it's kind of interesting. Creative Assembly, of course, is owned by Sega, so it's not surprising that they're putting like these Easter eggs in there, showing Sega and kind of giving that vibe. But what's interesting is the screenshot very much, it gives me the feeling of Wolfenstein, but with like a different art style. Like it almost has like a little bit more cartoony art style, but I don't know why it just gives me Wolfenstein vibes, just in space, essentially. Because the person's like looking out a window into space, and from, I'm assuming, a space station or a ship, one or the other. So yeah, I'm down for this. Creative Assembly, obviously, they made Alien Isolation, which was kind of criminally underrated. They also made Halo Wars 2, also criminally underrated. I loved Halo Wars 2. But yeah, I'm super down for this based on the screenshot already. Like, I'm already on board, and I'm very excited to see what they show off. And I'm kind of interested to see when they are going to actually like unveil this game. Maybe it'll happen at E3. I'm not sure, but I'd say this game has been in development for a few years, and obviously they haven't made anything that I can think of since Halo Wars 2 launched in 2018, 2019, I can't remember. But yeah, very excited for this, and really, really intrigued to see some more from it. Moving on, we have Epic has launched an updated website for Unreal Engine 5 with all the new details as well. Valley of the Ancient, which is their kind of sample project, so to speak, for Unreal Engine 5, is available as well and can be downloaded from the Epic Game Launcher, which is 100 gigs. Geez, for a sample project, my goodness. System requirements are in the second image, which the system requirements, the minimum requirements are an GTX 1080, which that's not bad. I mean, it's definitely on the higher end still, but that's not bad. 8 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of system RAM. 8 gigs of video card RAM, yes, and 32 gigs of system RAM, yes. Okay, yeah, that's actually not terrible. And they have successfully run the demo on PlayStation 5 and Series X consoles at full performance, which is exciting. This is it's putting it in the hands of developers, so they're getting an early build of Unreal Engine 5. They're kind of getting to test the waters of Unreal Engine 5 before they kind of dive full headfirst into it. I know the Coalition recently announced that they're moving to Unreal Engine 5, and that's why Gears will probably not come out for a couple more years, the next Gears game. They'll obviously have to transfer all to that new technology. So, yeah, very interested to see more from Unreal Engine 5, and their demos and everything they've shown thus far looks so good. My goodness. Epic is definitely masters of their Unreal Engine. Like, that's been one of the pinnacle game engines for so long now. It's insane. Pretty much ever since, I guess, Unreal Tournament, but really, I think Gears of War, the first Gears of War, kind of popularized the Unreal Engine for third-party developers. I think that's when so many third-party developers started to come in. And actually, I think part of the reason why Epic was saved after Gears of War Judgment came out and they had that long downtime before Fortnite, that they weren't really sure where they were going to end up. But I think the Unreal Engine money, the profits they made off of the Unreal Engine, helped them get through that rough patch, because before Fortnite, there was definitely serious talks about Epic being in trouble, and that's evidenced by they sold the Gears of War IP to Microsoft, and it was a pretty good deal for Microsoft as well. But yeah, very, very different position for Epic nowadays with all the money they made off of Fortnite, and I'm sure they will continue to succeed with Unreal Engine as well. So very, very cool on that front. Next up, we have two more stories, both PlayStation centric. So this will be a cool way to end the show here before I do my games I'm playing. Sony's Jim Ryan says the PlayStation team is planning on exploring the mobile market with some wonderful PlayStation franchises. Very interesting remarks here. Especially, this is coming hot off the heels of Nintendo not that long ago, like a couple months ago maybe, saying that they were wanting to get out of the mobile space, and now Sony is saying they want to get into the mobile space, which is interesting. The only thing that I hope from this is, I hope this isn't just a, hey, let's put Uncharted on mobile. Let's put, Last of Us on mobile. I hope it's not that. I hope it's more so, if they're going to make mobile games, like make mobile, first games. Make mobile first games. Make games that are made for mobile. Don't make games and then pigeonhole them into mobile. Maybe this means that they're just going to try to do more with, game streaming. Xbox Game Pass has shown on iOS now. They have the browser site where you can log into that to play Game Pass games from the cloud, from xCloud. So maybe they're going to try to do something like that. Who knows? With this comment, it kind of could go either way, but yeah, I would definitely be down to see some of our favorite franchises like Ratchet and Clank and Uncharted and all of these games, Spider-Man, getting mobile versions. But I want to make it clear that I want to see a mobile first game. Don't just port something over, because that doesn't really work like that. But moving on to our last news story, Sony has apparently, I don't know if this is confirmed, but this is not confirmed. Based on a PlayStation investor report, Uncharted 4 is likely coming to PC, which is interesting because Uncharted is like one of their staple franchises. And I know, obviously, Halo is a massive like staple franchise for Microsoft, and it's coming to PC for Halo Infinite, but it's a little different because Microsoft has supported PC pretty much this entire generation since Phil Spencer has taken over. He's been like, yeah, we're going to support PC and Xbox. This is one ecosystem. And now Sony seems to maybe be starting down that path. Obviously, Uncharted 4 is an older game at this point. It came out, I believe, like 2013, 2014, something like that. Let's see, 2014, I think. That sounds right. I'm probably wrong. But anyways, yeah, so this is very cool that we're going to get a PC version of this. More people get to play Uncharted 4, which is awesome. It's a really good, actually, I think it's a really good standalone Uncharted game too. Like, if you didn't play Uncharted 1 through 3, I don't think you'll miss anything for Uncharted 4. Obviously, you won't have, the same attachment to these characters that people playing the entire series do. But I do think that Uncharted 4 is a fantastic way to start the show on PC and maybe future iterations as well. So I think this is a fantastic idea and very excited for that. Brenty says on the YouTube chat, which I was watching the Twitch chat, trying to watch the YouTube chat. I was trying to go back and forth. Brenty says, hey, Daniel, have a great show. We are here with Roro celebrating his birthday. Have a good one. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Thank you for stopping out. And yes, Roro, happy birthday. Everyone, it is Roro's birthday. So very, very happy birthday to you. And yeah, very, very excited to have you guys here this week. ISO Christian, would be great to see the collection come to PC as well. Yes, absolutely. And I think that would make a lot of sense, especially after Uncharted 4 comes to it. It would obviously be better if Nathan Drake Collection came out before the Uncharted 4 PC version, but obviously, and I think PC gamers will take it any way that they can get it. So yeah, that would be fantastic to get the Nathan Drake Collection on there. And so good. That series is so good. Love it so much. Naughty Dog did a great job with that franchise. So very, very cool there. Keurig also says in the Twitch chat, happy birthday, Roro. So cool. Thank you for wishing him a happy birthday. And we will all hopefully be back next week. Christian is going to be joining us as well on a permanent basis now. And maybe we'll have Sean. I don't know. I haven't heard from him, so who knows where he's at. But yes, next week should be a much fuller episode. And next week we will also have E3 predictions, which will be very exciting. So make sure you guys come back for that. It'll be very exciting to have all that information. But before I close out the show, I will go into the games I am playing. I finished Resident Evil Village, which love that game so much. It's so good. It definitely surprised me in many respects. And I enjoyed it more than Resident Evil 7, I think. It had so many, exciting twists and turns. Like, even when you think you know what's going on in the story, like, I'm not spoiling anything, but like, you think you know something's going on, and then it's like, no, that's not what's happening. And then like just seeing all of that back and forth and then seeing how they wrap it up at the end, I really, really enjoyed the story of Resident Evil Village. And yeah, very excited for the future of that franchise, as it seems Capcom has kind of righted the ship there for Resident Evil as a whole. So very, very excited to see more from that game franchise. So yeah, but the other game I've been playing, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I was about to say Trilogy, but it's Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I started playing that, Mass Effect 1, and I will say I am pleasantly surprised by the upgrades that they did to Mass Effect 1. Like, the combat feels a lot better. I do remember like playing back in the day, and I had played well after the original game came out. I played the original. It was when Mass Effect 2 launched, actually, that I went back and played 1 so that I could play through everything. And it definitely needed work back then. But now it's like they did a really good job on the remaster of Mass Effect 1 and in the Legendary Edition. And I definitely recommend anyone who hasn't played Mass Effect before. It is such a good franchise. Like, it is a lot of hours for sure, especially if you do all the side quests and all the main missions. And I definitely recommend doing all the side quests and everything, because there's repercussions for not doing all of that stuff. But yeah, it's very, very cool to see all of that stuff. And yeah, it's really a great experience. And I'm going to try to stick it out with Mass Effect 1. I don't know if I'm going to have time to finish it all, but I would like to finish as much as I can and then check out Mass Effect 2 again, because Mass Effect 2 is the GOAT. Love that game so much. Mass Effect 3 kind of, I don't know, it didn't quite land expectations for Mass Effect 3, but it was still a great game as well. So, and it really rounded out the story. The ending was a little controversial, but overall, the franchise is such a fantastic franchise, and I can't recommend it enough. So, definitely do that. So remember, guys, join us next week at 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. We'll be live on YouTube and on Twitch. Make sure you check our E3 predictions for 2021. We'll be going over all of that. But anyways, yes. Thank you all so much for joining us. It was a great show, solo. But thank you again to everyone joining us both live on YouTube and on Twitch, as well as podcast services everywhere, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, and Stitcher. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I am Daniel, and this has been Podcast PXN, and we are out. Much love, and keep on gaming.